Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Titan del 86. Here you will find everything from your favorite characters from anime, series or movies, such as figures, statues, trading cards, and other limited special edition items. I will show you everything that is included. For example, we will discuss the design of the box, how it's packaged, the design of the figure, the articulation points, the accessories that are included, and we will see our favorite characters in special scenes. And you never know, you might see other characters make special guest appearances, so you can decide whether it's worth getting or not. Subscribe and join me on new weekly adventures. Now let's start the show. Let's go. Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my channel. My name is Titan del 86 and today I have a special collaboration between Transformers and Back to the Future. Here I present to you Gigawatt. This is in celebration of Back to the Future's 40th anniversary. On the side you can see both the vehicle and the robot form. On the back side of the box you can see the status of this Autobot Gigawatt along with a nice picture of the DeLorean. On the last side of the box you can see a reference of when the DeLorean is first introduced in the movie. This is the scene from when Doc was pulling it from the trailer. If you look closely at the 40, you can see there's an Easter egg throwing a nod at the movie from where Doc was hanging off the clock tower. On the top of the box you have a quick pass of the instructions from where Gigawatt is from vehicle form all the way to robot form in 4 quote-unquote simple steps. Here's a close-up of the stats of Autobot Gigawatt along with a quick description of this character. Here's another reference to the movie, the 1.21 gigawatts. Gigawatt is packaged in one blister pack where you can see the vehicle and the 2 accessories which are also his weapons. But what I want to draw your attention to is the detail that they did on this packaging, which is superb. Here you can see some of the blueprints to the time machine, just showing the DeLorean, the flux capacitor, and it's got some schematic details of the vehicle. So overall I am really impressed so far by what they have done in the packaging, where they throw a lot of little Easter eggs making references to the movie. Here's the 360 of the DeLorean time machine. I would say straight out of the box, but as you can see here I manipulated some things. Here I wanted to show you what it looks like with the gull wing doors open. Plus I also went and attached the proton blaster into the vehicle. So looking into the instructions, you can take the back piece off, which becomes the back piece that goes into the flux capacitor portion of it, and the rest of the gun just stores underneath the front bumper. I really like all the little details that they included on this vehicle. Even though the figure is really small, just look at that license plate on the backside that says out of time. One thing to note that I see here is that the wheels are movable, so you can technically roll this vehicle down, similar to what we saw with the Knight Rider Transformer, for those of you that watched that video. And if you haven't seen it, I suggest you go check it out, since that one was a special collaboration with Transformers. So this one follows the same DNA as that particular one, of following these movie themed vehicles and making them into Transformers. So in this one you can see the full range of motion from the doors, which is very similar to the one I just did of the popcorn bucket, also of the time machine. And that one also had the same features that you see here, where you could open the doors and the wheels move as well, which makes it look really good. Let me know in the comments what are your thoughts. For this scene I added the antenna that transmitted the lightning from the clock tower, and this is something that occurred towards the end of the movie, which is what they were using to charge the flux capacitor. So that is another neat accessory that they gave them that is also part of a weapon. For this scene I went back with the doors closed just so you can see how the vehicle fully looks once it's fully equipped with all the accessories. As you can see, it's got some really good details. The paint finish is really good. I must say that it's not as good as the one from the popcorn bucket, but it does have more details towards the back side of the vehicle, where you can see all the inner workings of the wires as it goes into the flux capacitor. Here I did see that they decided to do more details than what we saw from the popcorn bucket, even though the scale on that one is a lot bigger than what you see here. And hopefully the camera can capture all the tiny details, which if you look at it, they're not individual pieces, they're just painted on. So it looks like they were part of the mold that then they went back later and they repainted them with touch-up paint. So you can see that they used a very simple paint job on the vehicle. Even in the tail lamps, you can see that they only stuck to one generic color. But even with all that, they were able to get some of the good details. Honestly, it's fine. It doesn't really take away from the figure, because obviously the main purpose of this one is to be a transformer. For this scene, I basically replicated the same scene I did for those of you that watched the DeLorean Time Machine popcorn bucket, where I showed it in the air just to catch what the tires can do when you flip the tires in the bottom to show how the vehicle was able to fly, which is something that we saw at the end of the movie where Doc comes back to pick up Marty and to basically go to the next adventure. Then you can see that Doc modified the machine to give it the ability to fly, which was something I wasn't expecting for the popcorn bucket to do, but it was capable of doing it. And it just happens that this transformer is also able to have that special feature incorporated. One thing that made this possible is that I noticed that he has holes at the bottom. If you look at it closely, it's got 3 holes, 2 big ones and 1 little one. And it just so happens that if you're using Time Machine stands, they actually fit perfectly there into those slots, which is what I did here to capture this scene. So that is something that the figure is capable of doing in case you wanted to display the vehicle for this particular scene to show him flying through the air. And that is just something that I wasn't expecting to see in this figure, but the more we explore it, we're finding more hidden gems that are not to the movie or that is incorporated into the figure to let us do these crazy scenes that you see here. And you can see that they planted it for something. I'm not sure if they was just used for gauge holes when they were doing the mold, but maybe this is something that they already had in intention since they were giving you the feature to show it flying. So here's the quick comparison between this DeLorean transformer versus the DeLorean popcorn bucket. You can see that the popcorn bucket is way bigger than this one. And another thing to notice is you can see what I mentioned earlier regarding the paint jobs, where the popcorn bucket has that nice glittery sparkle to it, but that is lost on the transformer. Here on the transformer, you can see that you have more painted details on the hatchback than you do on the popcorn bucket. But nevertheless, they're both great to have in the collections, especially if you're a big fan of the movie. I just want to show both of these vehicles side by side just so you can see how different they are, but at the same time how similar they are. If you had a choice to pick one, which one would you pick? And again, if you haven't seen that video of my review of that popcorn bucket, I suggest you go check it out. Other than that, you can see that they both capture the same key points that define this special time traveling machine. In case you're wondering, here's a size comparison between this time traveling DeLorean and the Knight Rider. For some reason, I was really thinking they were the same scale, but as you can see, the Knight Rider is a little bit bigger, which I'm really sure that is not the actual scale between these two vehicles in real life. Let me know in the comments if I am wrong. Now here's a quick pass of the instructions that come with this transformer. So here in the title page, you have a nice picture of Gigawatt, just showing them in action. Again, it gives them a very futuristic vibe with the blue and the black. And here you can see how it starts out with the first 11 steps, showing you how to transform this figure. Hopefully it's not too complicated. But looking at it, it seems a little bit more familiar that it followed the same formula like Knight Rider. Here's a look at the back side. If you like what you're seeing, don't forget to leave your like, subscribe to the channel, and share the video. Don't forget to follow me on IG at Titan del 86. And this is when it's done. Then it's got this little section that shows you how to attach the weapons and the accessories and how to flip the wheels. Then on the last section, you have a nice shot of the vehicle, which looks really cool. And now I present to you this Autobot named Gigawatt, which is the DeLorean Time Machine. Overall, I really like the appearance of the figure. I really like how the eyes match the section of the front of the chest piece. And if you look closely in the front of the chest piece, you'll see that it's got some certain dates there. I'm curious to see if those dates actually match to the dates that Marty traveled using the time machine in reference to the movie. I have to take a closer look at those dates just to see what they are. Overall, transforming them wasn't too difficult. I'll give it an overall 4 out of 10 in the difficulty level. And the reason I give it that ranking is because the sections that did make it a little bit difficult was one of the front wheels was stuck, so I couldn't really get it in to fold correctly. And I think this was noticeable when I did the earlier scene when I was flipping the wheels down. I wasn't actually flipping the wheel of how I was supposed to be. I was actually giving the full swing, because in the wheel it has two joints to turn it. It has one joint to turn it in itself, and then it has another one to swing it even further in. So I believe when I did that particular scene, I actually swinged it all the way in, not realizing that it was a double joint. But to get it to transform and to have those front wheels facing in the correct position, you actually have to do the two turns within the double joint. And that was one of the sections that I was struggling with. The other one was the chest piece to getting it to flip over. That became very difficult as well, just trying to get it to do the 180-degree turn. It seemed like it was really stuck there. But other than that, the rest of the transformation was very straightforward. So looking further into the dates that are stamped into the chest plate of Gigawatt, those dates actually reflect key dates from the movie. So the first October date is the original date of when the movie takes place. The second October date comes from the sequel, and the November date is where Marty ends up being sent to from the first movie. So that is a really nice piece of detail that they added on this particular transformer.
4:29 p.m. on Wednesday, October 21st, 2015.
Just so you can see, these are some of the articulation points that you get out of this figure. So for the head, even though somewhat hidden, you do get a nice left and right. It does not go up and down, but it does go sideways. The arms, you get a nice 360. This is as high as they can go up, but obviously if you do this, you can get them to swing around. You get nice 360 out of the bicep. Here's the elbow. So you get a nice perfect degree, 90-degree angle, and you can kind of see the cutout there that they gave you for it. The wrist doesn't go up and down, or you don't get any 360 out of it, but you do get the in and out, which is the swing that he uses during the transformation. Obviously there's no shoulder movement, there's no pinion there. As you can see there, the figure is nicely fixed there between the top of the vehicle from the windshield to what then now is the chest piece. He does get torsional movement here. There's no chest movement. This is as high as the leg goes. He does some really good splits, and this is the portion where you really want to be careful because you get good thigh rotation, but you also get inner rotation there. You see that? So because of all these locking and moving pieces, you really have to be careful where you don't get a 180. If not, you're not going to be able to fully have them in the up-down direction. So just be mindful of that. And again, if you get lost in it, just remember the smaller bolt portion of it is on the back side, while the bigger piece is in the front side. So just be mindful of that. This is the knee movement. It's not as good as I was hoping it is. This is the back movement. A contribution of that is how this section fits, which I'm not a really big fan of how they did this portion of it. I would have liked it to be more filled in, and this would have been more better in the center, which if you see here is more on the front side than on the rear side, which somewhat gives a misbalance. And same thing with this, which you could actually have them face up just because of how it is. And I think this look would have been a lot better than the sunken look. But if you do it this way, it locks the movement of the knee. As far as the toes don't really move, but it does give you this portion of it to go inboard. And that's in case you want to do some side poses. But other than that, you're not going to get much movement out of the toes. So overall, he's got some really good basic articulation points that you can do with what the figure's capable of doing. You just want to be careful that you don't walk your way into a pose that locks the joints. So just be mindful of how each joint is and its resting point. That way you have a point of reference in case you do get lost in the articulations. But there you have it. For this scene, I have Gigawatt looking at his communicator. The other thing is I wanted to give you a good shot of his face. I know in a normal position face, the front of the hood is basically blocking it off. But from this angle, you should be able to get a good look at it. On this one, he's checking out what time he traveled to, since he is a time traveler. One thing that I did on this particular scene is I put the weapons away to where I think they go. And the reason I got this idea is if you look at the stock photos, they show that rod being attached to the shoulder, which to me it doesn't really make sense, honestly. I think in regular practicality, I think that rod would come in the way there just because of how long it is, and especially if it's going to be on the arm. So following that gesture, I did the same thing for the blaster, which again, it doesn't really make sense to me, but based on what was given, I think this is the best spot where they would go. Usually they give you a compartment or somewhere to attach them when it comes to these special transformers, which is usually in the back or somewhere where it makes sense to store a weapon when it's not being in use, because obviously you don't want the weapon to be in the way of regular movement, because obviously he's already having the weapons drawn out, and I don't even know how you reach to him, especially if he's just gonna grab them from the shoulder. It's not like he can just eject them and then catch them with the wrist. And I say that especially because of the rod. As you can see here, the rod is already hitting the bottom of his foot. I do like that he comes with 2 weapons for accessories. I just don't think they fully thought about where to store them when he's not using them.
This is what makes time travel possible.
For this scene, I have Gigawatt in combat action. On this one, I have him with both weapons drawn out where he's firing at the enemy. I'm really hoping that antenna becomes more like a baton where he could actually use it as a grappling hook. I think I'm stretching the imagination here, especially since it doesn't attach to the arm. So it basically moves from being stored in the shoulder to the forearm. But the real thing here is the blaster, which makes the figure look really amazing. But nevertheless, I do like the fact that Hasbro actually went in there and gave us a transformer variant of this time machine, which is really cool. I really like what they did here as far as all the gimmicky parts. I like the details that they incorporated. I like all the Easter eggs that they put in there that are nods to the movie itself. As you can see, the robot's not bad. He's got really good details. The articulation points are really good. You just have to make sure that you don't get into a joint lock position. Like I said, just be mindful of that. And other than that, the robot's good to go, whether you want to display him in his vehicle mode or if you want to display him in his robot mode. Or if you buy 2 and you end up having one in the DeLorean and the other one like you see here. Either way, you can't go wrong with them. Especially if you are a big fan of the movie Back to the Future. This is a must-have figure in the collection, especially since it's celebrating the 40th anniversary of the movie. This is all I have for you today. If you like what you have seen, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, share the video, and I'll see you next week with a brand new one. Thank you and bye.